Hello, Mr. Mulholland here. Today we're going to be making a new part. We're actually going to be making a part that you've probably seen before in real life. We're going to be making an M6 nut. Now we're going to be using a couple of new tools today, but we're going to be focusing on the sweep cut, which works very similar to the sweep boss base. And we're going to be looking at the hexagonal sketch tool. This is only one way you can use these tools. There are many ways, but I believe this is the most practical way to demonstrate how this tool works. So you might be watching this and think, well, I don't need to cut threads. But even though you don't need to cut threads, you still might need to know how to use the tool. So hopefully in the next couple of lessons, I'm going to have shown you how to make a thread for a nut and bolt that the theory behind you'll be able to apply to any number of other parts. So let's get started. We're going to make a new part and we're going to check our units just like usual. We're correct there, and document properties and units, we're correct there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open our new sketch and we're going to draw our little L shape. So this time we're going to be using the sweep cut tool, and cutting is a subtractive process. So we need to give some material to start with. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to get the basic shape of our nut using this tool, which is called the polygon tool. And basically what this does is it draws a hexagon. So we've drawn our basic hexagon shape. We need to dimension it, and I actually took some dimensions this morning from an M6 bolt or an M6 nut, and I found that between here and here was 10 millimeters. Between these 2 points was about 11.5. So there, I wasn't far off 11.55. Fortunately, my calipers aren't the most accurate in the world. So what we're going to do is we're now going to draw the hole that our thread will be in onto the sketch before we extrude it. This saves us cutting it out later. And I measured that hole to have a diameter of 5. So we're going to go to features and we're going to go to plus extrude. And it had a depth of 5 millimeters. So there we go. And as I said before, you might be looking at that going, that's absolutely perfect for what I need. I don't need anything too technical. And actually, when I was an engineer, that would have been the type of thing I would have done, because very rarely we actually needed to cut threads onto the part, because you mainly would use a die and a tap after the part had been milled or after the part had been made on the lathe. The only time really you would have made a thread on your part was if it was going to a 3D printer, because it's very difficult to do, and the material when you 3D print a part like this can be very soft, and that can make it very difficult to give it a thread. So what we're going to do now is we're going to trace the path that we're looking to cut out, and seeing as a thread is a spiral, we are going to do a spiral. So we're going to open a new sketch, and I'm just going to do it from the bottom face, because I think it'll be a bit more neat and a bit more tidy if we do it from there. And we are going to click convert entities, and we're going to convert that circle that we cut. Oh, I obviously clicked the wrong face, so I'm just going to undo that, and I'm going to click sketch, and I'm going to click this bottom face, and I'm going to click convert entities, and I'm just going to click just the circle, not the whole face, just the circle, because you click the whole face when you use this feature, the spiral feature under curves, helix and spiral. It will try and do a helix and spiral of the whole outside shape, which just doesn't work. Now for our pitch, I'm going to use 1mm. It's important that if you are making a male and female part of a thread that will fit together, that you keep the pitch the same, but the number of revolutions can change. So I'm just going to use 1mm because it's handy, and I'm going to use 5 revolutions because 5 times 1 is 5, and that's the depth of our nut. So now we have this spiral shape, lovely spiral. What we need to do is we need to add a new plane, and we're going to add it on either the top or the bottom of our spiral. I'm going to choose the top. You can choose the bottom if you want, it doesn't make a big difference, but I'm just going to use the top. So we have our first point clicked, and we're going to leave it as coincident. And now we need to pick our second point. Now the second point will be a parallel point, and we want it to be parallel to one of our existing planes. And I'm just looking at them, and remember, parallel means they run perfectly alongside each other, but they'll never touch. And just looking through these different planes, I think it's going to be the front plane. And there you go, it is. Oh, if you lose your part, remember you can just click spacebar and it'll bring you back. And yes, I'm perfectly happy with where that plane is. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to rename this plane, and I'm going to resize it. I'm going to call it cutting plane. So I'm going to right click on it and rename tree item. I'm going to call it cutting plane. So now that I have my new plane and my spiral, we need to draw a tool that we're going to use to cut. In this case, I'm going to use a square, but we need a point for this square to go on. So I'm going to use the Convert Entities button. On the spiral, and you'll see that that has given me my starting point for cutting, which would be that point there. Equally, I could use the bottom point, but I just decided the top point would probably be easier. So I'm just going to draw a center rectangle, and if you're doing, as I said before, if you're doing a male and a female threading, you need to keep this square the same size in both parts. So just for handiness, I'm going to use 0.5mm and 0.5mm. And now that I don't need this entity anymore, I'm just going to trim it. So when we have that done, we take the green tick here and we can click the exit sketch button here or the exit sketch button here. So now we have everything we need to start our cut. So I'm going to go to Features, Sweep Cut, and we have 2 selection boxes. We have the top one, which is our profile or our cutting edge, and this one, which is the path, which is what we want that cutting edge to follow. So I'm going to choose my box as my profile, and I'm going to choose the spiral as my edge. And just before I hit tick, I'm just going to have a little inspection of it, and it looks as if it's going to fit perfectly. So just to get a closer look at that, I'm going to use the sectional view, and as you can see, I have a thread going right the way through my part. As I said before, for your product design portfolio, you may not need to cut a thread, but your tool cut, your cutting profile, and your tool path can be any shape. If you want to cut a square out of a curved surface, you would use this tool. If you wanted to cut some patterns using a curved tool instead of a square tool, that's how you might do it. There's any number of ways you can use this tool. This is just the most practical way that I can think of that will give you the basics. So get experimenting with it, and thank you for watching.